Aubrey,
Tim,
I love you, dude.
I love you too, bro.
Have you recovered from that workout?
No, not
No.
at all. Not even close.
So we're on it right now. We just got done training with Juan, Lance Armstrong, Dakota Meyer, and then just the On It Beast crew.
Yeah.
And I could barely get up off the ground.
Yeah. I don't think I'm off the ground yet,
No.
actually.
But
Feels good, though.
It does. Health is important. And
It's the most important, right?
It is.
Like, when your health is gone, you will trade anything in the world to get it back.
Every cent that you have.
Yep.
Our the American health system has been broken for a while.
Yeah.
I think everybody recognizes that, and there's a variety of reasons: captured entities, captured agencies, captured science, and not being conspiratorial, but clearly there's, we spend more than any other country in the nation or in the world, and this nation has some of the worst health in the whole entire world.
Right.
Like, how does that compute?
Well, the irony is that it does compute, because the more that the health system actually starts to pour their money, seemingly there's a correlation, maybe not causation proven, but there's a correlation between the spend and the money that's flowing in and how sick people actually are. And that's the inversion of what healthcare should be.
Yeah. So one of your dear friends, like you
He's
consider
a
him,
brother.
yeah,
Right.
family,
Family.
Kennedy.
Like, I spend Christmas with him, and I know his sons and his daughters, and he's my family.
Yeah. I had the pleasure of having dinner with him at your house
Yep.
when he was going to be running for president. And he did one of the most noble and honorable things, which was step aside for the benefit of the nation and the benefit of the health of this nation.
I was at his house when he was contemplating that decision. And he made that decision because he loves the people of this country, and he's bound by his relationship with God. And he knows that he's of service to do the very best thing that he needs to do. He doesn't care about what his position is. He just cares about the people that he loves. It's for real.
It's incredible. It was an amazing dinner. He was brilliant. He was sincere. He was everything that you want in a world leader.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the election, November, has come and gone. Trump was elected by the people with a clear directive by the people, which was radical change.
Yeah.
The change agents are the appointed secretaries, directors of these gigantic agencies. And Robert Kennedy Jr. was selected to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services. Mm-hmm. It is one of the largest positions in the American government, 16 agencies in total, to National Institute of Health, CDC, Center for Disease Control, the FDA, 30-something thousand employees under HHS. And tomorrow is his first confirmation hearing. So before the vote on the floor, he goes, and this is so ironic, it's infuriating and pathetic. The Senate committee that he has to go to is the Finance Committee. So he first has to make it through the vote of the Finance Committee before he goes to the floor for confirmation. What are your thoughts on that, first of all? And then,
Well, as we were saying, one of the most important things we need to do is disambiguate the money from the health. Right? There's so much money in the healthcare and in the pharmaceutical industry, and they have so much influence because of that money. When they're buying ads on television, it's not just about the products that they're actually trying to sell. It's about how much influence they have on the channel that they're buying the ads from. Yeah. You buy 10% of the ad revenue for that entire channel. You can manipulate them for everything that they do. Right? And so this is part of the problem with our healthcare system, is there's so much money, and they have so much lobby interest, and they have so much capture of all of the people that they advertise with, whether it's a magazine, whether it's a newspaper, whether it's a television station. There's just so much money in the system. And then so to have the finance department be the one who decides what's good for human health when it's all been about the money, the irony is just right in our face. It's just like they're just rubbing it right in our face. And it's time for things to change.
Has to change. The change agents, in the United States, we have our three branches of government, right? We have our executive, we have legislative, and we have judicial. Everybody thinks, okay, the election happened, we have a president. That's not who makes the changes. The people that make the changes are directors and secretaries. These appointed people have to be confirmed by the Senate. And what we just saw with Pete Hegseth for Secretary of Defense, it was a tied vote, 50-50. Could have gone either way. And then ultimately the vice president had to come in to make a tie-breaking decision. And he voted yay in favor of the appointment and then ultimately the confirmation of Pete Hegseth as the Secretary of Defense. Kennedy's confirmation is razor thin.
Yep.
And there's been a playbook that's being used again and again: slander, misinformation, and lies. Some things about Kennedy specifically, they say, like, there is good science behind pre-intervention measures, vaccines, for example. They say he is anti-vaccine. And you spend tons of time with him. One, that is not what he said.
No.
You are as deep into health and nutrition as you can get,
Totally.
and you know him personally. If you could shed some light on what do you think his views are, and dispelling some of these rumors about what he thinks about vaccines.
Every single thing he says is based on the data and the research that he's looking at. And what we get in the news media is cherry-picked analyses of certain different things that are bought and paid for by the companies who are trying to sell a product.
Yeah.
But if you actually look at the data in the aggregate and you actually go through the gold standard clinical studies and these evaluations, that's all Robert F. Kennedy Jr. does, is he just looks at the data as a whole without any bias. And then he talks about that data. And during the time of COVID and during the time of his, presidential run, he was just talking about data, and all of that was censored. It's crazy. He's just talking data. And that's really where he's actually coming from, is he's looking at things without a bias, analyzing them, and he's just actually someone who's bound by God and bound by truth rather than bound and captured by the money and the fear that's in the system. So all of this, he's an anti-vaxxer, he's a conspiracy theorist. It's the exact opposite of the truth.
Yeah.
He's just looking at facts and then reporting those facts from an honest place in his heart.
Which is the best thing you could possibly do.
What else do we want?
No, that's exactly what I want.
Yeah.
Father of four, having to make decisions where I ask for information and I want informed consent. So as a parent, this is another one where he has time and time again said parents should be informed of the risks. There are risks associated with some of these medicines.
That's not a question.
It's not.
That's the irony of it, is like there's whole reporting systems of the adverse effects of these, but people are not given that when they're not talked about. I mean, maybe at the very end of a pharmaceutical commercial, they'll rush through a few of the side effects.
A pharmaceutical commercial where we are only one of two nations in the whole entire world that's pharmaceuticals are allowed to advertise directly to the consumer. We are one of two in the world. And again, Senate confirmation of finance going to approve. Anyways.
Well, and once more, the real problem with this is not that they're advertising that drug, it's that they get to spend so much money on the channel that is running the advertisements that they actually can influence the channel's news itself. So you can't think of these as commercials that just let people know, ask your doctor about this new drug. It's actually a mechanism by which they have leverage to control the narratives of the channel itself. And that's the biggest problem with it. It's not that, I learned about this new thing for arthritis. Fine, whatever. But if you're able to push that much money into a channel, into a show, then you have leverage. And we can't have people whose motivation is revenue driving our news and our health policies. We just cannot have that exist.
With vaccines, informed consent, he has made enemies, both by captured agencies. So there are high-ranking government officials that leave their government positions and immediately go and work for insert a pharmaceutical company where they're making 7, 8 figures. And they have a clear pathway from working the FDA, from the CDC to the NIH, and then going and working for, because I don't want this to be censored, not saying the name of a pharmaceutical company, but that pharmaceutical company immediately gives that person a high millions of dollar job with their connections and access back to the CDC, back to NIH, back to the FDA. And then ultimately, through really unethical, inappropriate connections, pushes things through. Things that we experienced during every conspiracy theory that was censored from 2019 through 2022, we now know to be true. And Kennedy was ringing the bell the whole entire time.
Right.
He was right about every single one of them.
Right.
But he was censored, he was misquoted, and ultimately lied about. And now he's going to go in front of a Senate confirmation hearing, and those accusations are going to be lobbed at him. If you could talk, so these senators have to represent their constituents. If you're going to talk to those people, what would you ask them to do?
Well, I would literally look at them and say, you guys don't understand. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., I've seen a lot of the most incredible men and women in the whole world. I've done a podcast with over 1,000 different shows on my show and other shows. I've networked with the best people in the world, and he's the best of us. Everybody who's saying, oh, he's got a worm in his brain, all of that, he is the sharpest, most erudite, most dialed individual who knows the most detailed information and facts of anybody that I know, including the great doctors that I'm aware of. He's just has a mind and a heart and a spirit that's totally aligned. He means the best for our country, and he's not afraid. If there's new information that comes out and he's wrong, he'll be the first to say, hey, I'm wrong, there's new information. He's a real, honest human being, and he's the best of us. And this is our chance. This is our chance to step into a new world of health and honesty and integrity. And this has to happen. Our nation should be leading the country in health, and it's actually at the bottom of the list in so many of the different categories. America, it's time. It's time to be the leaders in what we're capable of doing. When we watch the Olympics, we know that we can be the best of the best. But if we look at the aggregate data, we're the worst of the worst. And that doesn't make any sense. And that all can change, and it will change in this next 4 years. Have the courage and have the integrity to put this man in the position where he can do the most good. It's the most important thing for the sons and daughters of this generation and every generation to come. It's the most important thing. Please be honest. Use your heart and your mind and your integrity and be bound by God and make the right choice. There's nothing more important that we can do. For real. For real.
You're amazing. The thing that you can do, 1, listen to Aubrey. 2, you can go, you can find a representative and you can shoot them an email or you can give them a call. They are supposed to represent their constituents. I'll put the link where you can find your representative. You click on the find your representative, and then you can click on send them an email. Say, confirm Kennedy. Say, that is a man that we need in Health and Human Services as our secretary. Say whatever you want to say, but write from the heart and recognize that we are on the precipice of what could be one of the greatest transformations in American health in the history of this amazing country. So find your representative, reach out to them, and say, support Kennedy for Secretary of Health and Human Services.
And understand, look, there's been the most organized, most well-funded propaganda campaign against this man and against all of these people who are trying to push forward this change. Don't fall for it. see through the haze, see through
It's
the
hard to say.
fog.
I sent you a thing last night. So there's like this signature of these doctors that can go and say, okay, I don't want Kennedy to be president. Well, we had a bunch of friends that went on there and they signed as doctors with like Dr. Butthead, Dr. BS. Like there was no proof of who any of these people were.
And you could sign up multiple times.
As many times as you want. And there's hundreds of thousands of dollars being spent every single day on campaigns against Kennedy. Like, take a guess where that money's coming from. Just take a guess. They don't want healthy people, they want sick people because that's where they make their money.
Tim, thank you so much for everything you've done,
love
brother.
you.
I love you too, man. Let's go.
All right, I gotta go drink water and not,
I know.
and not
I
die.
know.
All right,
We love you.
thank you guys. Perfect.